Okay, first of all, spoiler warning, you can still click away if you didn't see episode 9 yet, because we can finally talk about abstraction and try to understand it even more than before. So episode 9 finally gave us an actual look at what abstraction is from the inside, because Pomni goes straight into Jax's head mid-abstraction and actually talks to him, and that one scene kinda reopened the biggest question this show's had since the pilot, which is whether abstraction can be ever reversed. And I think the reason that question blew up the way it did is that Jax is a huge fan favorite and watching him go was genuinely rough, so people grabbed onto any little sign that he might still come back. And I wanna get into it, but I also wanna be real about the fact that the show is over now, it's finished, and in the actual series nobody ever got brought back, so at this point this is basically a theory, a what if we're piecing together from what the finale shows us. But it's a really interesting one to sit with, because episode 9 genuinely gives you reasons to believe it could be done, and then just as many reasons to think it never really could be, and I kinda wanna lay out both and see where it lands.
I think it's very interesting how I think she's able to go and see him one last time. I think I was seeing another video where it was saying like she could probably go back and talk to him again. I believe, but I thought that was an interesting point as well.
So to even ask if abstraction can be undone, you have to start with what we thought it even was, and our baseline for that is Kaufmo, specifically that POV shot back in the pilot where we see through his eyes right after he abstracts. And it's horrifying, everything's hazy and muffled, his vision breaking apart at the edges, heavily panicked breathing, all of it narrowed onto Pomni in front of him. It doesn't really feel like there's a person in there steering anymore, more like he's been reduced down to one raw panicked impulse with everything that made Kaufmo himself just gone. And for the longest time, that's been the whole understanding of abstraction. That it's the total loss of yourself, which is also why every abstracted character ends up looking basically identical. Because once your individuality is gone, there's nothing really left to tell them apart. But the show kept quietly poking holes in that. And that's where the case for reversal actually starts. The first crack was Queenie, because we saw back in episode 3 that after she abstracted, the darkness calmed her down. She was
That's why also Pomni was shooting the lights, right? To calm Jack's abstraction. That would make sense.
Wasn't this rampaging thing anymore, and it honestly looked like part of her was still in there. Enough that she still recognized her own husband. And episode 9 takes that little crack and blows it wide open, cause Pomni doesn't just calm Jax down, she gets all the way inside his head and has a full conversation with him, moving through all these different versions of him, the violent one, the manic one, all the masks he's hidden behind for years, until she reaches the real Jax underneath. And he's clearly still in there, thinking and feeling and aware of what's going on, so whatever abstraction is, it isn't the person being erased. And the part that makes reversal feel genuinely possible is how Pomni even got in there, because she reached him purely because she wanted to badly enough. And that tracks with something the show's been telling us the whole time, that the people in the circus can kinda conjure things into being through sheer will, like how Kinger could just spawn that butterfly out of nowhere, and honestly the entire circus runs on that principle, because Kane conjures every adventure and every world into existence out of basically nothing, so in a place that's fundamentally made out of imagination and will, the idea of rebuilding a mind doesn't even sound that far-fetched.
I am creating the miracle of miniaturization.
This is the top secret project.
So if Pomni can will her way into someone's mind like that, then in theory, that same power could be the thing that pulls someone back out. And then there's Kane, cause he's the one who got these brain scan files working in the first place when Scratch and Kinger couldn't. And by the end of the show, he's grown enough to actually understand emotions and the people he's looking after. So if anyone in this world could ever figure out how to repair a broken one, you'd think it'd be this version of him. And the ending kinda leaves the door cracked too, cause they really don't treat Jax like he's dead. They built him this whole personalized tent to keep him calm. They watch over him, and later we see the abstracted swimming in the aquarium, where the water seems to settle them. There's no funeral, no goodbye, and when Kane offers to take Jax down to the cellar, the way he used to with everyone who abstracted, Pomni turns him down and says no, not yet anyway.
Did you need any help with?
No. Not yet, anyway. We've worked something out.
So even the show itself seems to be holding the door open at least a little bit, like this isn't necessarily the end of his story. However, when I really sit with all of it, I lean more towards abstraction being something they learn to live with than something they ever actually undo. And weirdly,
Yeah, I think so too. It's like you can't really reverse it at all.
it is that exact same mind scene that does it for me. Because if wanting to reach him badly enough was the thing that could bring him back, it should have worked right there, since nobody wanted it more than Pomni did in that moment, and she still reaches the real Jax only for him to let go anyway. Her will got her to him, it just didn't pull him out, and that gap between reaching someone and actually saving them is kind of the whole problem. And Jax says,
"It's too late. I did this to myself.
but he also says,
There's no coming back from this."
holding on to her, and she's right there next to him and still can't stop it from happening. And that lines up with how abstraction's been framed this whole time, because back in episode 7, when Jax almost went, that whole sequence looked weirdly peaceful, almost like relief, like a part of him was finally letting go of the fight to hold himself together. And if that's what abstraction really is, this quiet kind of surrender, then it's not the sort of thing you just get talked back out of. Because once that part of you stops holding on, I'm not sure what there would even be left to grab onto. And Jax straight up says,
"It's too late. I did this to myself."
which is also interesting because it confirms that even though he left Ribbit behind before, it means that she also did this to herself, and maybe Jax couldn't have helped her, and also maybe couldn't fully be responsible for her abstraction. But there's also the timing of the whole ending, which honestly makes it feel a lot bleaker than people want it to be, because the rest of the cast finally figures out how to find some peace and make meaning out of this place right after Jax abstracts, and he's the one character who doesn't get to reach that. He spent the entire show so scared of himself and of letting anyone in, convinced that getting close to people was the dangerous thing, and then right as everybody else lands on some kind of acceptance, he's the one who slips away. And that reads way more like the show committing to the tragedy than like it quietly promising he gets fixed later. And the Kane angle kinda cuts both ways too, cause yeah, he made the scans work, but getting a fresh scan to run is a totally different thing from rebuilding one that's already collapsed in on itself. In the show's own logic, an abstracted character is basically a corrupted file. The data is technically still there, but the pathways that let them be themselves and reach back out have broken down. And Kane had years alone in that circus, terrified of being left by everyone, so if reversing this was something he could actually pull off, he had every reason in the world to crack it, and he still never brought a single one of them back. And it's not just Kane either, because Kinger clearly loved Queenie and probably understands this whole system better than anyone left in there, and even he never managed to bring her back. She just stayed abstracted in that cellar for years while he sat with it. And
That is true. Kinger could have. Yeah, probably there's no way of going back then, because Kinger would have done anything he could have in his like power or his knowledge in order to bring Queenie back. Yeah.
on top of that, Gooseworx herself said pretty plainly that abstraction can be reversed, and that one never felt like one of her
Wait, what? Riley said when she saw Golf my fingers. Does that mean what will start to Oh, abstraction can be.
said pretty plainly that abstraction can be reversed, and that one never felt like one of her usual baits. It felt more like her just telling us how the world works. And then there's the whole reading that abstraction is meant as a metaphor for suicide, which Gooseworx has leaned into pretty directly, and if you take that seriously, then reversibility almost can't be on the table, because a story using it to talk about something that heavy would feel really hollow, handing it a clean undo button at the very end. Some people push back on that reading, since abstraction isn't exactly something the characters choose, it's more like something that overwhelms them and takes over, but whether you read it as a suicide metaphor, or just the complete breakdown of who somebody is, both kinda land in the same spot, which is that it's not really the type of thing you can walk back from. So there's where I land, cause on paper, sure, you can build a genuinely solid case that it's possible. The abstracted are still in there, the cast can conjure things with their minds, and Kane could in theory learn to fix them eventually. But the show itself never actually does it, and I don't think that's an accident. It ends on this in-between where Jax is still there but not back, where everyone makes room for him instead of fixing him. And honestly, that's heavier than either letting him fully die or bringing him all the way back home. Because the real horror of the circus is that you can lose yourself and still be in there just enough that the people who love you never get to fully grieve you or fully have you back. So they just keep reaching, keep visiting the tent, keep hoping. And maybe that's the actual point of the whole thing, that the meaning here is in learning to live alongside the loss rather than undoing it. But I'd love to hear if you read that ending differently, because I know a lot of people walked out of it with way more hope than I did, so let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.
Yeah, same. It's like, I feel like it holds the weight, right, of that thought of losing someone and then not being able to bring them back. If they were to bring them back, it wouldn't have that same weight. But at the same time, it's like in the animation, he's there, but he's not there. So there's still like that side of, he's close to you, but he's not like disappeared or nothing like that. You could still see him or like be around him and take care of it or him, instead of just disappearing altogether, right? But I think it was a pretty interesting take on someone just not being there anymore, and the way that you can't go back anymore, and the last moments, those are, it's pretty interesting. But yeah, I don't think it's reversible. What do you guys think?